everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of Pit Against, a live Fleshpoint call-in show. I'm joined by my constant co-host, Kevin Smurf Murphy. Kevin, what's up?
There's a lot.
There's a lot up right now. Oh my gosh.
There's a lot happening.
All right. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So the normal spiel. I think we got more people in than we normally do, and for good reason. The spiel is Pit Against is a live call-in show. If you'd like to be live on air talking to us about your take, join the Pit Against Discord by clicking on the link that's in the description or that Kevin or I have put in chat. Then join the waiting room channel. You have to join the waiting room channel so we can pull you into on air, and put your take in the topics channel. If we like your take, we'll pull you into for a mic check and then pull you on air. Kevin, what is up, actually?
There's so much happening. Oh my god.
Dude. Okay.
What the frick?
I thought it was the hype was overblown when we were looking at this grayed out article that was going to be posted by James White. I was like, how crazy could it be? Well, it was.
Dude, I saw it and I'm like, oh, that'll be something interesting.
It will be.
And then, like, I just saw a message in a Discord of someone like, they banned 8 things. And I'm like,
well,
so what? Okay.
I did.
And then I saw the list and I'm like,
yeah, I did end up psyching myself out. And so, like, at 5 o'clock, I was mass refreshing the page until too many people were doing that and said Gateway 503 error. And then I had to wait 5 more minutes to read it. And then I read the article. I did it where I do this sometimes to reduce spoilers, is I like shrink the size of the window browser so I can only read like 3 lines at a time, and I slowly peeled back the article. Best way to read it, by the way, because what an absolute haymaker dropped, banning some of the biggest cards in Flesh and Blood.
It's the biggest. It is by far the biggest change that I've seen since I started playing, like by far.
Like, this is arguably, like, I think for good reason you can't call this Fab 3.0, but, like, it feels like it in a way.
I think I might. It's at least 2.5. I think it might be 3.0.
I think it's 2.5 still, but
I can see 2.5.
It's just the fact that it's not just banning a huge chunk of cards, which leads to, you know, a whole new meta on what we're going to right now, but there's also a huge change in game design philosophy, which is also just insane, right?
Yeah, like this was not just we're gonna take the best 2 cards out of Zen, the best card out of Enigma, the best card out of New, the best card out of Prism.
Yeah,
it was we're gonna ban all the cards that do this, and in this case, it was go +1 card.
Yes.
So it
Lots
was
to talk about.
Consistent. Yeah, consistent enough across the board, I'll say.
I think everywhere there was like an exception to the rule. I think it made sense. I was like, okay, I'm on board. Yeah,
I think most of it was fairly consistent, at least.
Well,
and I think it is a health. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, do you want to bring in our first caller so we can start talking about some of the meat?
Sure.
All right, great. Yeah. We got a classic. We got a friend of ours coming on. And I want to give a shout out to everyone in chat joining us watching today. Again, if you want to be on air talking to us about this, giving your opinions that we get to bounce off of each other, you can join the Pit Against Discord. That's in the link. There's a link in the description, and there's a link in chat on Twitch. Oh, hey, I'm up here. Shout out to everyone in chat. What's up? Hey, hi. Hey. Yo to the Table Pit, who said the most banger comment the last time he was on, which was awesome. All right, it looks like Kevin's back. Kevin is back. And and we have a caller. Caller, what's your name and where are you calling? Where are you from? Where are you calling from?
Well, I'm from where you're from, and where Kevin was from.
True.
But I'm Allison, sometimes known as Captive Goat. I unhingedly post on the Warrior chats, let's call them, as well as Twitter. I cause problems and I get yelled at a lot.
There's a lot of foreshadowing going on. And what would you like to talk about on the show today?
Well, I got some topics.
Yes.
I put them in the thing. I don't know if you mind if I go through them in order. I don't. Oh, hi Kudos is here too.
Yeah, we do
He's
have more people, but
he's another warrior chatter. Great guy.
Oh, wow.
Or gal. I actually don't have any
Got
idea
it.
what gender hi Kudos is. But you seem great.
you look great.
You look great, hun. Yeah, the first thing I want to do is last time I was here, I was smearing the name of Guardians. And I want to be clear. I don't think Guardian players are any more intelligent than when I left. However, as, you know, the two, like, worst classes at the bottom of the totem pole having, like, the slap fight with the pillows, like the pillow fight things.
Yeah, sure.
I just want to say, you know, I understand. I get it now. I think we have some like kinship, like, you know, the people in WTR who were left behind, who were forgotten. And I'm sorry that you eat so many crayons, you freaking degenerate. I hate Guardian. God, I hate Guardian.
I
I'm
think
glad you're here with us. I'm glad we could take you down. Anyway.
all right. Well,
I have to get that on my system. I do appreciate you, William, for lending me the Rouse the Ancients from your garden.
yeah, no trouble, no trouble. During
that.
the
So that
skirmish.
you could play it in a warrior deck.
Yeah. And I heard you hecking murked a guy with it. Like you slaughtered an individual with that combo.
Yeah, I did do that, and I appreciate you because I did forget my deck to that event and then rushed to throw it together out of the scraps out of the floorboards of my car. But I did manage to pull it together, and you know, I didn't do too bad. I only lost to Reinar.
You're right. I also am using Warrior Majestics to line the bottom of my car, like the floorboard of my car. So
Well, I mean, it's cheaper than most other materials these days.
Well, that
I
is
mean, you
true.
know,
okay,
That's
so
true.
like Warriors Legendaries are selling for 25-30 cents.
So you wanted to talk about I assume Warrior and Guardian and their state in the league right now after this ban and restricted.
Yeah. Specifically, I want to talk about cash-in real quick. I want to
Okay.
say that banning cash-in is proof that James White and Brian Gottlieb specifically hate Warrior, and we're like, we need to make sure we ban this card before Warrior even has a taste of becoming good, maybe one day ever. So I'm glad they got ahead of that train and cut out my hope early.
Dorinthia spearheaded an entire meta from halfway through Welcome to Wraith to Arcane Rising.
Well, you know, I wasn't alive in 2019, I don't think. So, I'm not sure I'm concerned about that meta. I've been here since Everfest. I will be totally honest with you, but
That's fine. That's fine. No, but like, okay, so Kevin, tell us about.
Warrior was pretty good in heavy hitters.
Yeah, Warrior was pretty good in heavy hitters. Josh Ladd would say.
Let's be honest here, though. Heavy hitters was for the brutes and for the victors, and we were getting crushed on either side by them except for the brutes. I mean, I was beating up KOs left and right. I'm picking on the cripples. Like, that's what I'm doing here. They only got one arm. I got two. I'm winning that fight every time.
I get it.
However,
Because I hurt my foot the other day, and so I'm effectively a little more crippled than usual. Okay, Kevin, Kevin, tell us about the state of Warrior and Guardian right now after this ban and restricted.
So Warrior didn't get much ground in. So like they don't hate that the ninjas got dropped down pretty low, because the longer games go, the happier Warrior is. I think for every variant, whether that's Dawnblade or Dual Wield, they like slightly longer games than the ninjas were offering. But Cashin is an unfortunate hit for Kasai in particular. Some very aggressive Kasai builds, like the one that Allison very much enjoys to play.
It's fun.
Definitely
It's
love
interesting.
Olympia.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Olympia. Gold is
And
the
Don't worry.
gold is the
Gold's the payoff.
whatever.
Gold is the payoff. Hashtag.
Hashtag.
Getting that on a shirt.
Yes.
That's fair. I don't know how much it moves, like really like them down, because I think Enigma is still a big problem for them, and like, maybe this is just there's no way it can beat Enigma now instead of like a 10% or a 20% Enigma. It's 5 less because they just don't have a kind of snowball where it's like they get an early cash in to get a gold, which gets another cash in, which gets another gold, which gets a cash in. That's them maybe close the game, keep the board under control, but it's like no kind of engine there now where it's like gold is the payoff for Kasai is like not quite enough, and the expansion slot is nice, but it's just what they're already doing. So they weren't great in the last meta, and they're not getting enough out of this BNR.
Yeah, and I think Enigma's coming up big this one, and Enigma is all of the Warriors' worst nightmare, and we're gonna die to it. Like, we lost our tool to deal with it. It's over. But I mean, we are a class designed like to be stormtroopers. We're there so the main character classes like an illusionist can kill us. Like that's our purpose, right? Right?
I love that comment so much. Is so freaking funny. No offense, but I lost my train of. I had a point. I was literally gonna bring something up, and now I've lost it.
Well, I do apologize about that, but I have one last topic. One thing I want to bring up. In all seriousness, these bans are probably good, except for Cashin. I am mad about that. I would like just a moment in the sun, like maybe like 3 minutes of yard time outside my warrior prison. But like these bans are powering things down. I feel like we're moving into like a world where it's now like this defensive meta, and all the defensive tools that we have built up to deal with the state things are now going to overpower it, and we're moving into land like fatigue. Everything's going to slow forever, and moving forward just be slow and slow and slow, and it's going to be block and block and block, and like our defensive tools I think are now tuned, if that makes sense. And I don't think it's good for gameplay. I think eventually we'll need to revisit things. I personally am biased, and I want to sit in Fate and all 0-for-4s and get more creative D-reacts like we've been making, but I don't know.
I do think this meta is going to be significantly slower than the last one. People are saying that like, oh, it's going to be the same pace KO thing. Like, well, KO wasn't a thing in this last meta. Like, you didn't see KO at the PT. You didn't see KO really much at Nats. You saw a couple of them. They did well. Andrew Rothermel did top 4, I believe. Or did he make finals? I'm not 100% sure. He did very well with KO at US Nats. But come Amsterdam, Brutes weren't really doing anything, and their representation was pretty low. So I think this is going to be a much grindier, if we want to call it like mid-range meta, much more akin to heavy hitters than before. The problem is we dropped Enigma in the middle of that, and that's rough.
Yeah.
In a mid-range meta.
Yeah.
So I would. If they wanted to put Sync and Fate on that list and give everyone a 0-for-4 D-react like they just gave Earth in this set, where it's not always 0-for-4, you have to decompose for it, and it's still just 0-for-4 with the decompose. I'm down for that. I'm down for more interesting D-reacts. Because Sync and Fate are just kind of too good. And I see in chat, Finals of Lisbon was Enigma vs. KO. It was. You're right. I think Battle Hardens are a little more regional than maybe Calling Star or like a PT, which is an international event. I don't know that I would say KO is as consistent as Zen was. I also think there's a weird thing that happened where people just didn't want to play Zen by the end of this meta.
Yeah.
True.
But I do think this is going to be significantly slower. And even just Enigma vs. KO being the finals of that Battle Harden is people already not wanting to be on Zen, and all the other decks that are going to come up from that meta without Zen being the the benchmark, that's the meta we're going to see.
So I want to take a second. So like everyone's bringing up Enigma immediately. Like I've heard a lot of really good players saying Enigma is going to be the next fire, right? After Zen gets smacked by this BNR. Real quickly, why, I guess, right? Because some people might, they're newer to the game, or they don't quite have a big grasp on the meta. They just understand the meta is Zen, and now they're going to be like, okay, so what's the meta now? Okay, so the meta was Zen tier 0, maybe, right? And then it's
0.5.
Yeah. So Zen at the top and then everyone else. And everyone's like, oh, okay, if you just cut off the top, I didn't remember what the rest in the middle was. But Enigma is actually, should the game slow down more, right? With Art of War getting banned and a couple of other cards, Kano getting a hit. Enigma looks really good. She's a very real deck that does works on a couple of different axes with Spectra and Ward.
She can.
Yeah. And so slower decks that have a harder time clearing all these wards and auras are definitely going to start struggling into her. Namely, Guardians, Warriors, Assassins probably.
Assassin has a rough time into it. Yep.
Yeah.
It's all rough. We are going towards slowness. Slowness is coming. I promise. I promise.
Is it going to be too slow?
I don't know. What this meta actually shapes to be is entirely dependent on Rosetta. We don't have
that's fair.
Majestics and Legendaries yet from Rosetta. They are going to set the tone. If they can handle Enigma, then you might have Guardians and Warriors just hitting. It might be a triangle of like Rune Blades can deal with Enigma because they make Ward inefficient, or Rune Blades and Wizards can make Ward inefficient. Enigma tries to make Guardian and Warrior inefficient, or just like lose just on the long game. But then Warrior and Guardian might be able to more consistently outvalue the Rune Blades and Wizards, who can kind of just miss potentially. And so you might end up with a little triangle there of everyone checking each other, which is fine, but it's dependent on Rosetta. We need to see Rune Blades with significant split damage.
True.
Which we haven't seen a ton of yet from the Rune. Well, we haven't seen a ton of yet from Aurora. Florian's a little weird. We don't have the full picture on Florian yet.
We don't really have the full picture on what Viscera is going to look like coming out of it.
Viscera is going to get some tools. Vincent might be the best counter to Enigma. And actually looks to be a fairly consistent deck.
Printed on the card a way to deal with Enigma, which is great.
Yes. Which actually also works if they hit a Spectra aura.
It's so... Oh my gosh, because it triggers when you attack a Spectra.
Rune chance to trigger when you Spectra now. Like, Vincent is...
Clear everything.
Yes, you can clear the entire board with one attack, assuming if you are a Spectra at all ward with one attack. It was why Vincent couldn't loop by Prism, is because you send prevent Rune. They can put Aval behind the Arclight Sentinel, and the loop breaks. So Vincent might be an answer. Vincent is literally gets very good tools for consistent in the next set. Very good consistency tools, and when that deck is consistent, it wasn't 2/9 every turn. It's very scary, especially when those are split. And if some are unpreventable, that's pretty good.
It's just unpreventable. It's really good.
Yeah.
Don't tell Warrior Chat, but I did buy all the Vincent stuff in my downtime, just because the cute little strings on that, and I got Mara to make me a My Little Pony Vincent. So, suffering is magic.
Interesting. All right.
Real quick before I run along here, I want to shout out to my spiritual liege Inertia. I love you. And to all of the people in Kasai chat, Chowder, Hikata, Haikudos, and even Wrath, even though you're often wrong. I love y'all. I love memeing with you in there, and I'll see y'all when I see y'all.
We really appreciate you calling in. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Yeah, I love being here. I love Table Pit. I love doing all this stuff. You guys are great.
Thank you.
Bye.
Have a good day. Bye. We'll catch you next time.
Peace.
All right. Wow. So I'm a Guardian main. How, like, boned am I moving into this next set? Like, is there going to be, I guess a question I meant to bring up, was there going to be a nice little triangle where it's like Enigma, decks that beat Enigma, decks that beat the decks that beat Enigma, Enigma?
That's kind of like level 1 hope. So like level 0 is like Enigma beats everything because there's nothing that can do with it.
Yeah.
Level 1, like meta fine, is it ends up triangle where it's just about Enigma.
It's kind of similar now.
But there are decks that beat Enigma. Yeah. It's similar to the Zen. And there's another level where there's like 4 points where Florian's doing his thing, which is where it's like an OK or like Turtle Burst version of Runeblade. There's like Aurora, who's like a semi-aggro rune or an aggro Runeblade. Vincent is like a specific Enigma counter. And then there's Enigma doing her thing. And then there's like Guardian and Warrior trying to like do different things into each of those heroes, where you end up with like 4 or 5 points on the map. Kano's still going to try and exist and first cycle people. Kano's pitch stack plan is pretty bad now.
Is it? I have so many questions about that, right? So like, I just assumed that with no books, you're less aggressive, and so you need to pitch stack, but that's not right.
So what the books allowed you to do is you didn't play them in first cycle. You would pitch them into your stack because they were just +1 card, which means you would set it up so you're just always going +1 blue in hand, which means you go +3 resources. So normally you have 4 blues in hand.
Bigger E-pot kind of thing.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So normally you have 4 blues in hand. Let's say you have 3 E-pots and Tunic. So you have 7 resources plus your 4 blues in hand. 1 red tome means you have 5 in hand. Second red tome is 6. And you start getting to just redoing combos that nobody can stop, even with double or triple Oasis Respite. You cannot live through the combo.
But that's not a thing anymore without the
Oasis,
tomes.
It's not. You can't get enough resources. And I went back and I did the math on it, and it's just like you can like double Wildfire, double Blazing, but double Oasis just stops that now. Yeah. Because you can't go up to that 5th and 6th card, which let you like Crucible, Metacarpus everything, which lets you triple Blazing, which lets you triple Wildfire. Like you're just down enough resources that the stack cannot kill through Oasis.
Yeah.
Which means you're probably going to first cycle people. Your first cycle is still pretty good. You still have Cindering Foresight. You still have Kindle. You're still going to get your Wildfire to 7 or 8. That's pretty good.
At worst, you can do it twice.
You can kind of Wildfire twice. It's not great. Deja Vu might become super important. Potion of Deja Vu might become super important to Kano. When you have a Kano that's dependent on first cycle and can't stack you, because Oasis will now counter the stack, Oasis now can do really well into a first cycle tempo Kano. Because your Oasis can actually just stop it. And as soon as you're sitting on Oasis, Kano can just start stacking you, and you are just like, well, I'm stuck. If I just use the Oasis, then they just will first cycle me. They can just pivot and kill me. If I don't use the Oasis, then they just sit on it until they kill me.
The stressful part of previously playing against Wizard, but it's different now. Yeah.
But now, because they just kind of can't stack you because Oasis stops it, and Oasis does a lot against first cycle Kano, Oasis is better against Kano than it's ever been.
True. Well,
like
No,
it's not
it's a good point.
a death sentence for Kano. The deck's to run Oasis and be able to function while sitting on an Oasis in Arsenal.
The meta triangle that is Kano, which is Kano, which beats decks without Oasis, which beats decks with Oasis, which beats Kano.
Much.
I love that.
It's like you can. There's gonna the Kano's not dead.
No.
But his games are so much harder.
Yes. Which I think is great.
So hard now.
I think it's hilarious. I think I love it. Do we want to head to our next caller?
Yeah, I'm down.
Heck yeah.
I'll go grab them.
If you go get them, I'm going to talk to chat for a second. Black Belt said they are glad Kano's in our hit, but poor Katsu. And I think I feel that too. Everyone feels that a little bit. Poor Katsu. David Mink was typing in chat. Bolton's purpose is to go 2-2 in an armory. That's hilarious. Frick. Casey Glass. Let's go Guardians. Represent. I love that. Bless y'all in chat. And if any of y'all want to be on air talking to us tonight, or maybe next week, join the Discord, the Pit Against Discord. Link will be in chat or in the description. And you give us the take and we'll pull you on air. Which, speaking of that, we have a caller in chat. Caller, what's your name and where are you calling from?
Hey, my name is Paul, better known as Haikudos in the Purple Discord. You'll see me floating around the Warrior channels. I am from Wisconsin.
Oh, heck yeah.
Where are you guys from?
I don't know. And what would you like to talk about on the show?
Oh, okay.
Virginia.
Right on. Oh, okay.
Yeah, we're from Virginia. No, we're from Virginia.
Well, I got to shout out Capio. I think that was a good call. A lot of my disgruntled Warrior take kind of over there. I'm not going to cover or bring those back up. I agree with that segment. Was good. Specifically, the one thing that I'm looking at in restricted announcement, the thing that's coming to my mind is like, why are we not talking Blood Rush Bellows? It kind of seems to fit the mold. You look at the notably absent section there. They talk about why some of these cards are spared. I know it's not a book, so obviously like it misses the theme there. But you know, they're talking swing burns, go up a card, etc. Like it kind of feels like this would have been the time. Like the Brute kit in my opinion has evolved to the state where there's lower variance. The resource curve is now dropped. It could have been on the table for conversation, and it's not even mentioned in the article. So I kind of wanted your guys' takes. Am I in the wrong here? How do you guys think about this?
So are you saying that Blood Rush should have also been hit?
I think it should have at least been a consideration.
I think it definitely was a consideration. I think it was 100% on the table.
I think it's interesting. I do think it is interesting that if it was on the table, they didn't say anything about it.
Oh, okay. I may have misspoke. It is mentioned under the Art of War section. So they did bring it up, but it wasn't under the notable omissions or whatever. So it is mentioned in the article. So like, it clearly crossed someone's plate. But I guess, what do you guys think about that?
So just to read it real quick, right? So the point they brought up was some people might ask why Blood Rush Bow is okay, well, Art of War isn't. On the surface, they're both the same. One cost resource, trade 2 cards for 2 cards with a power buff. Art of War being a generic means that it can play with literally it combos with any card in the entirety of Flesh and Blood, compared to Blood Rush Bow, which is only siloed into Brute, which I think is the important part of that conversation, is within Brute. They're completely fine with Blood Rush Bellow. And it's because of the same reason everyone kind of hated Brute for years. It's because the class actively wants to hurt itself. Is my interpretation, right?
Which is discarding.
Yeah, right? Like, oh my gosh, Savage Swing on card, or let's say what's the blue? What's the blue 6 that they have?
Wrecker Romp.
Wrecker Romp, right? Yeah. Okay, 2 cost. 2 cost. You can't use Tunic to cheat it out. 2 cost. And you can't give it snaps to give it go again. It's 2 cost for 8 damage. Discard a card to play it. 3 card 8?
Yeah.
3-card 8, and your
That's
upside
fair.
is Intimidate on one hero and a Might token on another. It's not looking great. And I think it's within these limitations. Brute is already limiting itself enough to where Blood Rush Bellow doesn't feel insane. Brutes have to like really scrounge for action points, right? That's why Mandible Claws is so strong, because it is a lot easier to proc. And I think people might be thinking, oh, well, Scabs. But Scabs is a huge risk. Like, that's a big risk.
I want to kind of delineate there between KO and the other brutes. Because KO uses Wild Ride and Pulping significantly better than the other brutes do. I think the cost of that is 1 claw over 2.
True.
I think there's also a distinction to be made between Art of War and Blood Rush, in that Art of War is a controlled -1 card. It is not a random discard. So if you Blood Rush with 4 cards in hand, play Blood Rush, pitch card, and you discard, it's random which of the cards you keep. And just that difference would be a full 5 points of value. That's happened many times where you discard
end up
the
discarding
red to the
your
blue, or the blue to the red. And then the 2 cards, depending on the discard, can be varying degrees of damage. I've seen 28 damage Blood Rushes. I've seen 12 damage Blood Rushes. Like,
I had a draft where it was the Farewell to Welcome to Wraith draft, where I drafted 2 Blood Rush Bellows, played them both in the same turn, dealt 14 damage. It was cool.
Sick.
I think it was like an attack and then Romping Club. Like, it was not good.
Yeah. Yeah, like I think the other piece of this is Art of War, because it is controlled, you are very likely to be able to cheat that card that you banish, which is what we see with Strider Reprisal and the Crouching Tiger. It's what we see in Chain, where you just banish a Blood Debt card that you can play.
Yep.
Oh no. I'll just
just
draw 2 cards. I can still just play this
pay
card.
1, draw 3 cards. Or just straight up draw 2 cards.
It's pay 1, draw 2. So I think Blood Rush is harder to cheat. Yes, Beast Within exists. There is also a cost on Beast Within. It is a very low cost in KO. Admittedly, it is random to hit it usually if you're going to do it, because you want to do that on a larger hand, but then it's random. If you do it on a 3-card Blood Rush hand, it's still fine. It's strong. It is. But it's also not something that you can control a ton unless you're willing to wait a couple turns, rather than just send the Blood Rush on the first turn you have it.
Yeah.
So I think there's just enough differences there that it separates Art of War and Blood Rush a little bit for me. And I think also in chat from David Mink here, the difference between Blood Rush and Art of War is claws.
Ooh,
primarily.
Good point. Yep.
Claws instantly having go again, each having +2, means that drawing blues is just good. You want a Blood Rush with like discard between 2 blues, because you draw blue red and your hand's just great. It's fantastic. You're super happy with that. So as soon as claws are gone,
which they will, totally I mean they're going to LL eventually.
They're going to LL eventually, and probably these nerfs help them LL faster than they would have without them.
And we do know LSS are definitely a company who will just let a man LL. Like, they are just like, fine, I'll see you off into the sunset. Zen was maybe a bit much, but still.
They weren't willing to wait for season, but they were willing to Blitz and just go. But I think there's enough distinctions between Art of War and Blood Rush, although claws do make Blood Rush kind of free, sort of. Like, it's very low risk to like run it. So
I would agree with almost all of that. I think like as the Brute kit evolves, when they had to play like CNC, a non-brute card for Arsenal Destruction back in the day, right? If we're talking like pre-Dynasty where they didn't have Skullcrack.
Defensive, no Skullcrack, no Spin Packing.
Defensive disruptions for your power turns. So like you're not just playing this like swing back and forth stuff. It's like, you know, you're gonna bleed damage. When I see a blood rush hit the board, I know I'm gonna bleed damage on my side. It's just a matter of how much. And like I think that's fair. All the points you brought up are good. I just as the brute kit evolves, as the cost curve reduces with Sash as well, there's less need for the blues to be in there. And back in the day, it was like, well, you need 8-9 blues. I don't know what they're running now minimum, but it feels like it's been so long since I've seen a brute miss on a blood rush, and obviously I'm using my own personal experience here, but I just feel like the dex is super consistent. However, I also think it's healthy to have KO be what I assume is a pretty healthy aggro to keep things in click and must. I think that's also good. I just wanted you guys to take dive into the differences. I'm not saying they should end it. I don't want to be like a hater on Blood Rush Bellow. I just wanted to. I think it's worth diving into that more. So
Oh no, that's completely understandable. And
I do think Sash moved Blood Rush a lot because it did help fix a lot of those lower resource hands where it's like, oh, I can't claw with this KO hand, but I could still just send Wild Ride into Bear Fangs because they're each one resource now, and I just had 2 floating from playing the rush. It's still just a 18.
Yeah,
it seems good.
Yeah,
it's a 3-card equipment team.
Yeah, really good.
So,
well, thank you so much for the call. Is there anything you want to shout out?
Nope. Like I said, I think Captive Go
like
did
our
a great
Patreon?
job talking about. Oh yeah, I'll shout out the Discord, the Patreon. Thanks for inviting me, by the way.
Oh, no trouble.
I had no idea this was a thing, so I saw your Twitter reply, and I was like, what a cool way to recruit people, get people to check it out. So I'm definitely gonna be a fan of the show. Subscribe, don't worry. So.
You're gonna make me blush. All right. Oh my gosh, that's so sweet. Yeah, tell your friends and family. Spread
the word.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for the call. We'll catch you next time.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
Heck yeah. Thank you. All right. Just so everyone knows, if you do want to call in, we might do one more take, but I think actually what I want to talk about is a couple of the other cards we haven't brought up on the ban list, or we can talk about LL if you want to.
Sure. I think both are interesting for sure.
I think
there is something we wanted to touch on for LL. I'm gonna forget.
You bring it up because I'm curious which one it is.
Sure. Yeah. Oh, so LL now?
Yeah, sure. Let's do it.
Okay.
It's on the mind.
I think LL's in a fairly healthy place.
A lot of people,
especially after a lot of people are the opinions around LL right now are very positive, are like overwhelmingly positive. I'm very interested to see what happens going forward with the restriction, because a lot of people are saying that it doesn't move Zen at all. He's still just killing people on turn 2.
Stubbies is really good.
Stubbies is really good, it turns out.
Yeah.
So I think there has to be a deck that I have not seen yet personally, because I don't know what it is. But I know that it exists. Dan Rakowski has talked about it on Runaways podcast, and I believe it's like a Pouncing Lynx deck. It's a exclusively Pouncing Lynx deck, if I recall correctly. It's not Traverse. So
that's interesting.
I would love to get to see that deck if I can go find it in their Discord or something, or if somebody happens to know where it is. That would be much appreciated. But it's LL's in a pretty good spot. Starvo isn't overpowered, but he's still very strong. He still does Starvo stuff. Prism might be a little overtuned. OG Prism might be a touch overtuned because she now has 15 War Tune Heralds, is pretty good, it turns out. Weird. Rapture is actually kind of hilariously good in OG Prism because it's just like, free make a Spectral Shield. Okay. Hope 1. So just all her Heralds are +2 damage, or +2 value now, because it's the one.
That card's insane.
Rapture's not crazy. Prism Awakener of Soul, the new Prism, is not doing nearly as well as OG Prism. I think people have not figured out how to reconcile the health difference with the power upgrades you get from the Angels.
Yeah.
It's I tried playing. I played New Prism for my LL skirmish, and I went 2-2, and I could already tell the differences between CC and LL for this Prism, and the deck is going to be exceedingly complicated and is probably the most complex deck I've had to play, or tried to play in this game, by a pretty significant margin. And like,
crazy.
It's significantly more complicated than CC Prism, I think. Like, it's wild.
It's kind of cool.
And I think Chain's still,
yeah.
Chain is a real deck. Phi is maybe a real deck. I'm not sure, but I think Chain still does stuff that Zen can't do.
Yeah.
Icelander is a real deck. Icelander is a very good Zen matchup.
Yeah. There's so many.
Not very good. She has a solid Zen matchup.
There's so many decks in LL. Like, there's so many playable, viable. You bring it, and someone's like, "Oh, okay, that's kind of interesting. I like it." And I mean, it feels really good.
We said this before, I'm pretty sure, but we said 8 unique heroes at Amsterdam Battle Hardened.
Yeah,
which is the best we've seen out of
great
almost any Battle Hardened ever.
Yeah,
let alone LL.
Yeah, let alone right. So, one of the points that people have been bringing up, but also we're going to bring up, is that LL feels unique now, like different. It feels
with this ban list.
Yeah,
they made LL its own format where all of these cards where you just go +1, you do your busted thing, are just there.
Yeah,
and that's where you get to play it. And they've made CC its distinct from LL now.
There was a period of time where LL felt like it was mono Starvo, but then after that, it felt like it was second CC, especially with Zen in a pretty healthy spot. Yeah. Once
Zen came in, it was second CC.
Yeah.
Between Starvo nerfs and Zen, it was Lexi Chain were kind of the most common things.
Which just felt like
Starvo
Tails. Like, they just felt like an old meta.
Yeah, it's just kind of Tails meta.
Yeah.
But then some more ice started coming back in with Oldham and Icelander once CLF was unrestricted. Yep. And the meta just kind of rounded out from there. And then Prism started to become a thing again because Prism can prey on Lexi very well and Icelander very well and Oldham very well. So like there's a lot of very solid decks, and Kano just gets to do his thing there. He gets all his tomes, he can gig stack Oldham to a source of content. His Prism matchup is still rough, but then his aggro matchups are still fine, even with the Rune Blades now having Dyadic Carapace for AB3 for like nothing. Like the LL format is so interesting.
Yeah,
it's so interesting. And I think everyone is. I've heard like no complaints almost about this format, and I know that one of our armories is at least switching to LL every other week.
Wow,
which is dope.
Wow, that's like very interesting.
Because all of us were like, we want to play this format more.
That's so crazy. Is cool. Right? So like normally...
And I think this was like, especially post this ban list, everyone's like, these are now completely different things. We want to play both of them. We're not just getting to play the same decks. They're just different decks at this point.
It's that point you made about switching over is very distinctly interesting to me, because... thinking about like a new player experience, right? Or not necessarily a new player experience, but like just the player experience, right? So you need in card games a couple of things to refill the natural hemorrhaging of players you have over time, right? People naturally come and go from the game, and so you need new ways to bring people in. You need ways to keep people playing. You need ways to like inspire them to invest more into the game, right? And so there's many ways to get players into the game, but a good way to get them in is the number one advertising point that TCGs do, especially Flesh and Blood, which is the professional circuit. We have had like 3 new players at our armories because they watch Majin Bay, or they've been watching Battle Hardens, and they're impressed by the coverage and stuff like that, and they're just like, this is something I aspire to want to do. I want to play in one of those tournaments. I want to have cool stories like this I can tell friends. And so
I've been watching that server, and one of the guys is like, I don't know if I'm ready to play an armory yet. I don't know if I'm ready to enter that tournament yet. And I'm like, to me, it's just like, that's just an armory.
It's just an armory.
I just wing that shit.
Yeah.
Like,
well, it goes back to why I thought that was so interesting that your store might go to LL, because we don't have many LL tournaments going on, right? Like,
yes.
How many more do you expect we have this year?
Well, I mean, we know we have a calling.
I don't see more than 4. Like 4 more LL events this year, right?
So we have Calling Chicago that we know is there.
Yeah.
We have another skirmish season, which we know is split Blitz LL.
Is that confirmed? I assumed it was, but okay, cool. That's actually cool.
I think with that, I think some stores will move towards it. That being said, we have 5 armories a week that I can reasonably attend.
True.
So we have the opportunity to easily say, hey, we want them to be well.
Yeah.
Every week or every other week. And it's fine.
I guess it's just interesting because I was thinking that, you know, for not being as big of a format competitively, and also not necessarily being a new player friendly format, right? Like Blitz, I can understand why people will play that without tournament support, because it's just is easier for newer players to get into. But for LL to not have many tournaments, and then also for a store, this is a little bit different, but a store being like, okay, every other armory is going to be LL, just shows how good the format is right now. Right?
Yes.
Like, it's insane.
Which they did a slight disservice to LL indirectly. It's a little bit unfortunate for what they did for LL with this ban list, which is to say your C deck does not necessarily translate now. It is legal in LL, but it won't translate as well now. Because your Art of Wars aren't there, your tomes aren't there. Like, you have to add a couple little power cards. Now, none of the cards they banned are super expensive. Anyone who cares about those cards, they probably already have them, or they're not super expensive to pick up. So it's not the biggest issue for this yet.
Yeah,
but it is something I want to kind of keep an eye on.
There was a time where I was telling people you need to pick up, I think it was when KO Armory deck was coming out, and I had fully sold myself on it, and I was like, okay, this is great. I was saying stuff like, you should get the KO Armory deck because you can break it down into a Blitz deck. You can also just take it straight into LL. You can do that. It is probably harder to do that more and more as
I would not recommend
stuff keeps
it.
Yeah, it's especially for LL, it's getting hard.
Now there's one other piece of this for LL. They announced the format of the Team Cup at Worlds this year, which is something they talked about in the National Championship season, is that there would be a Team Cup at Worlds where you have a team for each country. And I love the way they've done this format. It's fantastic. A lot of people were worried, we're going to have to choose between like playing Worlds and playing this event, or it's like only going to be people who aren't qualified for Worlds, so it's not necessarily the best. So what they've done is the team is the default for the team, and these invites can pass down or be changed or whatever, is first place and second place at your national championship are your captain and your second seat.
Which means just being finalist is really important too, which I think is important for the whole thing. Yeah,
there's a huge distinction within top 8 at your national championship as well going forward.
Yeah.
And your third seat is number 1 ELO for your country, which I assume just passes, will just step down.
Great.
First,
I love
first
that.
or finalist is first ELO.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
It's so good.
That setup for teams is really interesting. All of those people are going to be qualified for nationals, presumably, or for Worlds, presumably. So here's what they did.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, the first 2 are, because top 8 at Nats, at least for US, is nationals qualified. For any of the major countries is Worlds qualified, excuse me. and I think top 4 for most nationals is Worlds qualified. So here's what they did. So day 1 of Worlds is Friday. Thursday, they have Team LL for the Team Cup.
I love this so much. Oh my gosh. Yeah, go on.
And they have 5 rounds of Team Living Legend format.
That's so sick.
For everyone to play.
If there's not like extensive coverage of this, I will cry.
I will be so mildly frustrated if there's not coverage of this.
So mildly.
Like, aggressively annoyed.
Mid.
Yes.
Aggressively disappointed.
Grumbly. I will be so aggressively grumbly if there's no coverage of this. And if there's not, grumpy. I swear to God, I will be there in the hall walking around tweeting what is happening.
You better.
Like just tweeting all the matchups, who's on what, who's versus who, and like whatever results I can get. I swear to God, I will just do that.
Team USA pulled ahead of Team Finland. I don't know. And then like, you know, in the next round, it's frick. Oh, that's going to be so hype.
Yeah, like that's fantastic. So here's what they did for the rest of it. They take your individual results in day 1 and 2 of Worlds and count that towards your team so that you don't have to choose between playing one or the other event.
It also...
Yeah. It like unofficially, not unofficially, makes LL a part of Worlds, which is the best thing for that format that you can do. It's better than making it a part of skirmishes, in my opinion.
So there's so many good things about this, right? Like, one, more things to follow with Worlds.
Before you go into this, the last piece of the format is they cut to top 4 teams on Sunday, and they play Team LL again in knockout bracket.
Unless the entirety of US is in top 8, but...
I mean, they can schedule that around it. That's fine. You can figure that schedule out. That's easy. That's easier to do.
It's because there's just less players playing and...
Yeah,
it's so cool.
It's extreme. It is a very well set up format, in my opinion.
Plus, Worlds is typically the top 8 is normally pretty diverse, if I'm remembering correctly.
It's been pretty diverse in the past. At least 5 or 6 countries usually. I believe the last 8 different countries, if I recall correctly.
Yeah. So it's okay. So the reason this is just so well structured it leads to a lot of different things, right? So like, one, in this tiny format, you have 3 in this tiny tournament. You have 3 formats. You'll have draft and CC and LL, right? Like they'll count draft rounds.
Yes.
Yeah. Which is great because you're testing the players on a bunch of different metrics. But also, it's neat because oh, what's up? We got a raid from Breadnick. We got a raid. I appreciate it. We're talking about the mini LL tournament within Worlds right now. What was the name of it again? It's called
the World Team Cup.
The World Team Cup. Another thing it is.
They made LL a part of.
Is it's more storylines, which is very important. I was talking about new player experience. One big way that people get into the game is the advertising mechanic that is tournaments, and with more storylines, it leads to so much more flavor. It gives them more reason to put certain people on camera. It's not maybe on camera for round 5 is not the person in first, who's 5-0 or whatever. Maybe it's okay. It's Japan round is going insane in LL team, and then they come into the matches, and we're just seeing how well this team is doing.
Yeah. Round 1 of CC, you have somebody from a 5-0 team and somebody else from another 5-0 team from LL.
Round 1.
Round CC on Friday.
Round 1, I wanted to be our Greek world champion. Maybe round 2.
Sure. I'm okay with that one back. Then like the back feature matches.
Yeah.
Teams. That's pretty cool. But like, imagine the storyline if somebody wins the World Team Cup and Worlds.
Oh, there's so much bragging rights with that.
That's just nuts.
Oh my gosh. I have
That's
another
nuts.
question. I have another weird question. Do we know numbers for this format? Like, I assume there's prizes? Pricing?
Yes.
Do we know those?
$60,000 prize pool.
What, for the team?
I believe. For team.
60,000?
Yeah.
That's like a...
Worlds is a $300,000 prize pool.
That's a lot.
Uh-huh.
It's a lot, right? Like,
yeah.
I guess, you know what, when you're talking about professional players having to devote time and energy to a secondary tournament during Worlds, you do need incentive to keep them motivated for that thing.
I will say it only adds one format, which is LL. It's not like they're doing LL and Blitz and Clash.
Adding an entire format was the entire point people were mad about Blitz and Worlds 1.
Yeah, sure. But like this is like one, I think this is a format that people are much more open to adding compared to Blitz. People were not super open, super receptive to Blitz being a part of Worlds at the first one. Also, this being just like your Worlds rounds just count towards this means you don't have to put a ton of time into LL. You can put enough into it. It's not like it determines the entire thing. It's important. Don't get me wrong.
It would be funny if like
4-1.
It would be funny.
You just go 0-5, you win Worlds, but you make top 4 team up because you are basically winning Worlds.
That's funny.
You probably need to go like 2-3 or 3-2 or something, but like so the prize pool is total $60,000. It pays out to top 4. All of the top 4 teams get PTIs.
Wow.
First place gets an inscription into the team cup. So there is a physical trophy, and they get their
They're gonna get their names
inscribed
on
the
it?
trophy.
Oh, that's so cool. Oh man.
Teams also receive a welcome gift during the player meeting on Thursday for
I assume during like
competing in the team cup.
During flag presentation or sometime around then?
No, player meeting on Thursday, not Friday.
On Thursday, not Friday. Got it. Yep.
Friday is day 1 of Worlds.
Yep.
Thursday is the LL rounds of Team Cup, and they'll have a player meeting, and there's going to be some sort of promo for that.
Redneck asked when was it announced? Because it was just announced recently, right? Like a week or two ago?
It was just a couple days ago that I noticed it. It was like a day or two ago that like I noticed that it was just updated on the World Championship OP page on FABTCG.com.
This is so good.
So
I hope they lean into this
excited to see this format. I am going to be sad if I can't just like be there and watch. I will just stand there for 5 hours and watch these teams play LL. Swear to God.
It would be so awesome.
Yeah.
Holy frick.
So yeah, I'm excited for LL, especially now that it's kind of its own thing and they've like kind of made a distinction in the power levels the same way kind of Magic has, where like Legacy is a very distinct power level from not quite from Modern, but at the very least from Standard, and Modern from Standard. Like,
I'm going to say Magic used to be. Magic's just a thing it's now.
Yeah, but like they have said that LL is going to be a high card format, and they have toned down CC accordingly.
That's
with this ban list. So,
cool. The point I was going to make out.
They're doing. Yeah.
The thing I would want to do if I was a part of that team, depending on the team structure and like who's in it and other things, like something I could see happening, let's put it that way, is like there's one person on the team who is like they're just wildly into LL. They want to test LL more than anything else, and they're focused in on it. Or they maybe feel like they have less chance than their teammates in the Worlds tournament with maybe they're not a strong drafter or something like that, and they're just like, you know what I'm going to do for my team is what I'm going to What I'm gonna do for the team, no, it's so funny, is I'm gonna study LL. I'm gonna be testing LL. I'm gonna focus on LL, and during the team games, I will be team captain for LL, and I will help carry the team through it, which I think would be really cool to see someone like step up and like be team like. Winner of Nationals is team captain, but somebody to be like a manager for the
LL
team.
Yeah, the LL expert.
The LL expert, yeah.
I will say there's 5 rounds of LL, and then you have 15 rounds of Worlds.
It's so
you
crazy.
have 9 rounds of CC and 6 rounds of draft. You still have to do.
Also, all the times that me and you have bickered about what the format would look like if we were to squeeze LL into Worlds, and I would say stuff like, well, just add more rounds, and you would say stuff like, well, take out draft or something stupid. This fixes.
This is fine.
This is perfect.
This is fine.
Everyone gets what they want. I get more rounds.
Yeah, I'm okay with it. I'm okay with there being 3 days of content.
Yes.
Is that the best structure for everyone involved? Probably not.
I don't care.
Am I okay with it? Yeah, I'm kind of okay with it in a selfish way. But like
entertainment value.
Yeah.
Entertainment value. It is.
Yeah.
There's a weird way to word this that probably comes across as negative, where professional players or players playing for big things should see themselves in a sense as entertainers, where their job is to sell the game, and very indirectly, right? Like this isn't something you're actively thinking about, right? Like
yes, but that's not as much a consider. They need to be okay with it. Yeah, they don't need to play to it.
Yes, that's exactly the sentiment I was thinking of. Yeah.
LSS and organizers are the ones who are going to make it, and then you're just like, they're like, here's the competition. You're like, I will compete in the competition.
It's like it's like, okay, so the parallel is in esports right now. They're going through like esports winter because the bubble burst. All the investments are going crazy and drying up, and players are in a position where they're realizing, I can't just play the game and be good at it, or the game's just going to disappear. Something. I have to do something. A lot of them are having to do content creation on the side, not because they need to monetarily, but because their company needs them to, or they're going to go under. And that's not the mindset Flesh and Blood pro players should have. But in the same sense, they should understand that the game will, in a sense, in a less like corpo way, they're going to try to sell the players' experience in games to get more following and other things like that.
Yes, part of this is Ellis has to balance like competitive integrity and like how good a tournament structure is for the tournament, and then also they want to also have a tournament structure that is fun to watch. They want that benefits the game.
Oh, it's so good.
But they have to balance. They have to balance one versus the other.
And I could see, and I don't want to think about it, but I could see next year Worlds looks different because they get feedback from this one, and certain players from the team event are just like, that burned me out so bad and I hated every bit of it. Or maybe something like every single person in the team event just bombs day one, or something absurd that I don't think will happen, but it could happen.
It's possible for sure.
So,
but like we see the idea, world championships in other esports that last weeks.
That is true.
Months.
True.
Like it's a thing. Like PUBG Worlds is like months essentially. It is like you play like 3 days a week of like 8 hours a day. It's crazy. So like I want to see what happens next year, but this is interesting. I like it. I like the direction they're going with it. Ooh. And I do want to touch answer to Haikuto's question from YouTube chat. Is it gem paired, or do the teams get to decide who plays what deck into where? So the way teams works is you have your team is just a unit, and you're paired against another team through gem, and you have your team captain, and they're paired against the other team captain.
Well, not your team captain will be The national
your team captain
champion.
is paired. Yes, and they are gem paired against another team captain, so
Okay.
that your team plays their team.
So
So,
it's not-
only the team captains are gem.
So is it? So it will be the finalists versus each other, the winners versus each other, and the highest elos versus each other.
Not necessarily. So the way that's just gem, so that you can match one team against another.
Okay.
The way it works is within your team, you choose who is the middle seat, and they'll have some color wristband to go with that. I think it was red the last time I did it. And then the other two seats have different color wristbands, blue and green, or the other two. So red is your middle seat, and they play against the red.
Yeah.
And then blue sits on one side, they play against blue, green plays against green.
Are we sure they're not just going to pair up like national champion versus national champion every round?
So
like all the national champions are A, all the finalists are B.
No, because we don't know that they will all be there.
True.
So there will just be a team captain in gem who is paired against another team captain.
Okay.
And then those teams will sit down across from the corresponding color armband on the other team. Each player on a team will sit down across from the same armband color on the other team. And it doesn't matter if they're the national champ, the finalist, or if they're somebody who got invited because somebody couldn't make it.
All of them are going to be pretty
It is
good.
just, yes, I assume anyone who's sitting down at those tables is an absolute killer. Like, if you take any of those games lightly, you don't know what you're doing.
You don't, yeah.
But I don't think anyone's going to be taking
assume.
those games lightly.
No. That's great.
But that is how teams work. Is you have a team captain. It is likely to be the national champion with the way they've set up the system, and they will be paired against another team captain. The team captains could be on opposite sides from each other for the team battle. They may not be sitting in the center. They may be sitting in the center. That's up to the team to decide. So, like, when the last time I did teams, it was outside of Seal, and it was at Battle Hardened Baltimore. And I was sitting center because I was playing Zayla and pitch stack mattered. I had Merrick on one side and Mara on the other side. And they would switch depending on where the blue and the green happened to line up. But I was always center.
Okay.
But I was not the one in gem. Mara was the one in gem.
Yeah.
Because she was the one who paid and therefore was team captain.
Okay. You're true. Okay. So I have...
That's the way it's going to work.
Yeah.
They pair team captains who represent their national team in the three people. And then there is a middle seat and side seats. And the middle seat sits across from the middle seat. And then the side seats sit across from the corresponding side seats.
So I think I just have two... I have a statement and then a question, and then my statement is going to be, I think what would be awesome for LL Blitz is to... Now, this is like LL team LL, whatever.
Okay.
You know what I mean? The Blitz as in not the name, but the word. I think the cool thing to do with streaming it would be have one overhead camera that covers all three games, and you could just see all three games playing.
No.
That would be awesome.
That won't work.
Well, you
can't tell what the cards are.
You barely tell what the cards are.
That's not good for the casters or the viewing audience, as opposed to what most Magic setups do, where they just swap between the three games.
I just want to... I want to see the interactions between the players. I want to see Team USA whispering each other in the ear.
And have it mic'd up. I'd love to have that mic'd up. It would be great.
That would be so good.
None of the setups that we have teams work super well right now. We had a setup actually at Baltimore that worked pretty well. Credit to and Sash feeds. Worked relatively well. You can't use the Magic. The Magic one works because they're best of three, so you can very easily bounce between games as between matches as games end. But you can't really do that in Fab because they're best of one.
Yeah.
So then it's like you just kind of jump into the middle, like the end game, and you just have like no idea what's happened. So it's going to be a little tricky potentially to cover it, but I want.
Well, I think it could be good that way, because then you get to watch, an interesting matchup. Like, let's say Starvo Zen, and then after that game ends, you can watch the Oldemir. I also think.
I mean, yeah, you have built-in backup matches instantly.
Yeah.
Like, they're just there.
That's pretty cool.
Because you have to have people sitting at the tables with each other. Yeah. You have to for teams.
I just want team cameras, so you can see like someone's game finishes, and so they're just like they're doing this the whole time, trying to like get an eye on what's going on.
They're just scooting. Yeah, they're just scooting over, because the rule is, if you get up out of your seat, you cannot talk to your teammates.
So what people do? The chair around?
You just scoot the chair around between your two other teammates if you're on the end.
Oh, I love that.
And just there talking to your teammates, and you're working through everything. So like, I remember the last round.
Coverage.
My game had ended, and Merrick's game had ended, and we were both just like, Merrick just scooted around behind me, and we were both just looking over Mara's shoulder, like double checking all her lines and making sure that like everything was there. So like it was. I love team events. They're fun. They're interesting. But like, if there's not coverage of this, I'm gonna be grumpy. I'm gonna grumble aggressively. Like,
I love it.
On.
They better do it.
It's easy.
They better do it.
It's an easy dub for you.
Oh man.
But no.
All right.
They nailed form. They nailed Team Cup format.
I think that about wraps it up. Right?
Mm-hmm. I think so.
All right. Well, Kevin, do you have any shout outs?
Brednick for the raid.
Brednick for the raid.
Streaming LL recently. Having fun with it.
Ooh.
Love to hear it.
Ooh.
I need to play more LL, because I want to figure out new Prism in that format.
I need to play more Enigma, because I need to find out how Enigma works.
Yeah, she's kind of messed up.
Yeah. I need to just at least understand some of the cards and interactions and stuff like that. But yeah, shout out Brednick. Shout out the Table Pit merch store. Link to that'll be in the description for the VOD. If you're genuinely concerned about getting some Table Pit merch right now, just let me know. Just let me know. I'll hit you up with a link, because the link is crazy.
I'll be in Tampa.
You'll be in Tampa. You'll be in Tampa. You'll be playing Sealed for a whole weekend.
I'm going to play Sealed an entire goddamn weekend. I got 3 events lined up on Friday. I got a calling Saturday, and I'm probably just going to play side events on Sunday instead of the battle. I'm going to make day 2 of the calling. I want my Vandals Fitting Spirit promos.
Yeah, you'll make day 2.
We'll see.
Yeah, you will. You will. You got it.
We'll see. We'll see how Friday goes. Friday could be dope.
Yeah.
Friday could be great.
All right. Well, thank you all so much for watching. Bye.